Yo, what is up? Welcome back to Research Reality for part 5 in our video series, You're Only As Good as Your Sources, talking about the power of having good, solid information streams so that you are informed of the day-to-day things happening in the world. And this series is basically just me giving full transparency to my information stream, my algorithm, the people that I've been reading, watching, following for years now. And again, people that I want to kind of signal boost because I think they are a good, solid source of information. But not only that, also they've paid contributions to this culture of resistance, which is what I call this wall, basically. So in part 2, we talked about some of my favorite authors, journalists, academics, all that good stuff. In part 3, we talked about some of my favorite YouTubers like Climate Town and Channel 5. Part 4 talked about comedians and podcasts. I don't know why I lumped those together. They probably should have been split. But this one is actually now a continuation of the comedians and podcasters, because it turns out I missed a few. Definitely feel free to check out those other previous videos. We also have protest music reviews coming out pretty consistently. We did Jesse Wells, Propaganda, Green Day, Arch Enemy, and more are definitely on the way. So definitely like and subscribe if you like the vibe, or check out the Patreon account for exclusive videos if you would like to support the channel further. And definitely leave a comment below about your favorite comedian, your favorite podcaster, someone that you think could almost be on this wall. Definitely let me know in the comments down below. Anyways, starting off with this list of my favorite comedians and podcasters, we have number 1, who I'm really kicking myself for not including in the first video because he's actually my favorite comedian. He's actually on the wall. We have Bo Burnham. The dude is very talented, not just when it comes to stand-up comedy, which in of itself is actually not a traditional stand-up routine. It's very theatrical, very musical. He plays a lot of songs on his set, but in each one of his specials, they just ooze creativity. There's definitely a lot that I can say about Bo, but to keep it short and concise, I'll say that his earlier specials were more introspective in nature, but then slowly but surely they got a bit more punchier in terms of, again, this culture of resistance. There goes my thing again. Short and concise. God, that's annoying. Anyways, what was I even saying? In terms of his earlier career, I would say that the song Art is Dead is probably number 1 in terms of the first few specials. Just talking about the absurdity of being an artist, being famous while some people go hungry, but we wanted our name in lights, so on and so forth. Definitely worth checking out for that song in particular. Also in his first special, Words, 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 he makes a funny joke about Noam Chomsky. Noam Chomsky, for those who watched part 2 of this series, you will know that he is my favorite intellectual. The man's just been going for decades now, writing books, giving lectures all about the American government, criticizing corruption in various facets, criticizing foreign policy, the media, the list goes on. Then on his special titled What, he has a song from the perspective of God, which is pretty good. And then on his next special, Make Happy, he has a number of songs that helped put him on this wall for contributing to this culture of resistance. And the special itself is such a masterpiece, I really can't recommend it enough, which is something I say all the time. But in that special, he has the song Straight White Male, which is just talking about all the hardships of being a straight white male, because, you know, we got a lot of problems. So many problems. Which, actually, we do. You know, there's definitely a loneliness epidemic. There's a lot of other economic hardships that everyone is suffering under. But still, it is a good song. Another good song is Country Song, which is just a solid critique of generic stadium country rock. And another song, which is more of a skit, is him playing the song War. What is it good for? Increasing domestic manufacturing. But he also says, I don't want to get political. I only know my ideas of other people's ideas, which is literally the whole concept of this series right here. I have only my ideas of other people's ideas that seem to make sense to me. Still trying to cast a wide net to get as much information as possible, but still, you're only as good as your sources, man. You're only as good as your sources. You heard it here first, folks. Hashtag Bo Burnham. But of course, Bo's best work comes from his Netflix special, Inside which he wrote, shot, edited, directed all by himself, and it perfectly encapsulates the mental downfall of someone living through the pandemic, living through lockdown, dealing with all the political ramifications of our society. And I think the best song on that album is Welcome to the Internet, a song written from the perspective of the internet, how it steals our attention, how it keeps us scrolling, how it keeps us engaged, because it has everything to offer us except genuine human connection. And despite its hilarity, it's actually a pretty sinister song. And there's plenty of other songs as well, which we will save for the actual review of that album. And even though I said this about his last special, I cannot recommend Inside enough. If you haven't already seen it, if you have seen it, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. But again, it's an absolute masterpiece that he literally created all by himself. Can't be overstated. So that was a long-winded explanation of the first person on the list. Now moving on to the second person on the list, Hasan Minhaj, or Hassan Minaj, Hassan Massage, Have Some Massage, Handsome Mirage. But Hasan Minhaj is definitely a great stand-up comedian. His newest special, Off With His Head, is just so good! If you want a traditional stand-up comedy set, definitely check out Off With His Head. There were so many solid points layered throughout, and it was just released late 2024, so it's a pretty current take on various situations, be it race, there's a few jabs at Israel, of course wealth and income inequality. He talks about political worship, like why are we worshiping our politicians like they are our favorite sports team? And overall, I think he has a pretty good critique of just liberal and progressive ideology, just kind of boxing some stuff in with a improved framework. And he of course had his own show, Patriot Act, which I only saw a few episodes of, but I remember liking it. I should go back and revisit that show. But again, Off With His Head, great special, great energy, great points. If you don't want to watch Bo Burnham because it's not necessarily a traditional stand-up routine, definitely check out this one and let me know what you think. Alright, moving on to number 3, we have our first podcaster, Kathryn Edwards, and that's Kathryn Edwards, the economist, not the actress. So I initially discovered her through TikTok, but she also has the podcast, Optimist Economy, with crime-fighting duo Batman and Robin, or should I say Kathryn and Robin. I believe Kathryn is also a columnist for Bloomberg, and she's also testified in front of Congress about good economic policy, and her TikTok is fantastic. KED Economics, Kathryn Edwards Economics. And I think the biggest point that she makes throughout all of this is that we had the Bush tax cuts, we had the Trump tax cuts, now there's even more tax cuts coming in this big beautiful bill. The Bush tax cuts cost a total of $5 trillion on the low end. The Trump tax cuts from 2017, 2016 cost an estimated $2 trillion. And now the big beautiful bill will cost a yet to be seen total of trillions of dollars. And Kathryn puts this more eloquently than I do, but basically if we took just $2 trillion and invested that into children, which helped pay for childcare and also gave breakfast and lunch to all students, then you would see an increase in test scores because of course hungry children do not perform well in school. And then of course if you're getting better test scores, then you're getting better economic return on those kids because then they go into the workforce and become more productive members of society. They are less likely to fall into poverty and then therefore less likely to fall into crime. Hashtag Kathryn and Robin. And so you can literally buy better school outcomes. And so you do all of that, you pump in $2 trillion into childcare and better schools, and then see what happens in a 20-year timeline, because we know what happened with the Bush cuts, we kind of know what happened with the Trump cuts. Not a whole lot of economic relief for the average person, but the economic return would pay dividends if we just increase the funding in our younger generation. Then we would be setting ourselves up for success rather than this continued failure. So definitely check out Optimist Economy because there is actually a lot to be optimistic about. Definitely check out KED's Economics on TikTok and I think even YouTube. Next up, we have a repeat from our last video, Bill Maher. Of course, as always, I don't agree with everything Bill Maher says, but his podcast/show, Club Random, I think is actually a very good production because Bill Maher is someone that talks to everyone, so of course he has a lot of people that I like say Sam Harris, but he has other more controversial figures like say Candace Owens, and I think that's good. I think it's a good, healthy dialogue, and again, while there's a lot of people that he gets on there that you're just like, what the fuck? Still, I think it's good to have those conversations, to have those interviews with people from the other side of the aisle, because if you're constantly just listening and watching and talking to people that you agree with, that is called an echo chamber. And again, one of my policies on this channel is that you don't have to agree with everything someone says in order to find value in what they think. A lot of people, I disagree with 80% of what they think, but if there's still even 20% that actually helps round out my worldview, gives me a fresh perspective that I would not have heard otherwise, hey, I think that's a win. But some people are just so rigid, and you know what? That's fine, you dumb bitch. No, I'm kidding. But no, on a serious note, Bill Maher, pretty good. Worth checking out if he has someone that you like or even dislike on his show, Club Random. Next, we have Doug Stanhope, who has been at it for quite some time. Definitely a very good political comedian, definitely makes various points throughout his set. It's been a while since I watched his earlier stand-up, but there is one clip that I'll link down below where he's talking about nationalism, and again, just the absurdity of nationalism, of having that kind of ideology. So yeah, I'll link that down below if I remember. If not, let me know. But I think his take is super accurate along with a lot of his other takes. Pretty good overall. Very George Carlin-esque. And last but not least, this also could have been on our YouTube category, but then we have the liberal redneck, aka Trey Crowder, who I personally think is pretty hilarious. He has pretty snappy videos. He has pretty quick takes on current events in a pretty hysterical way. Similar to Josh Johnson from the previous video, only Johnson is more just straight stand-up, scratching out his work on The Daily Show. But Trey is more or less just sitting in his car, spitting straight bars, talking about all the bullshit that's going on. And he, of course, is a comedian as well. So I thought I would include him in this video, talking about my favorite comedians and podcasters, even though I'll probably still have to make another video talking about all of these because the list just keeps climbing. But anyways, guys, that ends part 5 of this video at least. Let me know what you think about these comedians, these podcasts. Let me know if you have a favorite person that I did not include in these videos. I will definitely check them out. Also, let me know if there's anyone missing from this wall, from this culture of resistance, that you think could also be included. This whole section is entirely reserved for recommendations from you. I just haven't gotten around to actually doing that yet. And definitely like and subscribe if you like the vibe. Definitely check out the Patreon account if you want to support the channel further. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Take care, stay well, stay safe, and we will see you on the next video. Later.